Hello, thanks a lot for joining us today. We know there are many people attending this question and answer session about Digital News Initiative Innovation Fund. Thanks for joining. We were absolutely amazed to see the number of questions we get from you. And this is always impressive to see how you are interested in, but also how you react to the new rules we are trying to suggest for this round of application. And we saw a lot of interest for the slight changes we've decided to make for this round 4. So we're going to talk about that, but before, let me introduce myself. I'm Ludovic, I'm the head of the Digital News Initiative Innovation Fund, and I'm going to let the other people in the team introduce themselves. Start with Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hartley. I'm with the DNI Fund. I look after a lot of the sort of applicants' questions and issues that arise from the application process. I'm based here in the UK.
Hi, I'm Christian Heise. I'm the DNI Innovation Fund Operations Manager, long title. I'm taking care of operations and processes within the DNI Fund, but I'm also part of the assessment team.
So you have here the face of the fund, people that are trying to engage the conversation as much as possible with you. And it's very important for us to make clear that there are people behind the fund that want to answer all questions. So we're going to try to do that today with the question we've received, but always have in mind that we answer also emails, dnifund@google.com. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. So first, Digital News Initiative Innovation Fund. The Innovation Fund is the innovation pillar of DNI, of the Digital News Initiative. The DNI is built upon 3 pillars. One is product, the other one is research and training, the third one is innovation. We're going to talk today about the Innovation Fund, but really important to have in mind that this initiative is broader than just a fund, and it's a framework for dialogue between Google and the news ecosystem. So the fund is all about empowering journalism through technology and innovation. The aim of the fund is support and stimulate innovation in the news ecosystem. Over 3 years, Google made available 150 million euros for projects that demonstrate new thinking in the practice of digital journalism and support projects that support the development of new business model. The key word here is really about stimulation. We've all, the 3 of us, spent time in newsroom. We know how it's complicated, especially today, to kind of step back from daily basis, from daily activity, just break the silos, brainstorm with the team, and build a vision. And with this fund, we are offering room and space to take risk, to test some ideas, to test innovative projects, and just the opportunity to step back and build a vision. And the application process in itself is something that should be taken very seriously. Take the time to brainstorm on it. It's not just about having a quick idea and put it on paper. It's really about going in depth, turning around your idea, and have a deep brainstorm with your team. In terms of eligibility, nothing has changed. The fund is all about diversity of ideas and diversity of topics, and of course diversity of applicants. Everyone, almost everyone working in the news ecosystem in 32 European countries can apply. You can be a traditional media, a broadcaster, a new startup, even an individual that have idea for news. If you are based in Europe, incorporated in Europe, living in Europe, you can submit an application to DNI Innovation Fund. Christian.
Yeah, what countries we mean by Europe exactly, you can totally find, and you will hear this quite often today, in our FAQ. So it's actually all European countries, including EFTA. So Switzerland, for instance, is obviously also part of it. But have a look at our FAQ. We list every of the 32 countries very clearly.
So where we are today, we had 3 rounds completed so far. We get more than 3,000 applications. We received more than 3,000 applications, and we've shortlisted almost 750 applicants for interview. When I say that the fund is all about having discussion and interactions, this is something we are taking very seriously. We are reviewing all applications, we are making a first shortlist of the application, and then we set up interviews with applicants and we start engaging the conversation to really understand what is behind a project. So far, we received more than 3,000 applications, make 750 interviews with applicants, and at the end of the day, we've selected 359 projects in 29 European countries, and we've offered 3.5 million euros in funding.
Yeah, and what we just have forgotten actually to add to this slide, because I think it's a very important number as well, is the number of feedback calls we actually have after every round for unsuccessful recipients. We will come back to this later in the questions, but even if we send for logistic and whatever legal reasons as well, automatic supplies all to those who haven't been successful, we are open to give feedback. So you can reach out to us and give feedback, and I think, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but after the last round 3, we both probably easily gave like 100 applicants feedback, which have been unsuccessful.
Yeah.
So what we are looking for, so like round 1, round 2, and round 3, we are looking for specific projects around online news. When we say specific, this is something very important. We are supporting a project with a very clear perimeter. The fund is not supporting the overall company. We are not acting as a venture. We are not taking any kind of share in a project. IP is yours. Intellectual property of the application or of the project stays to the applicant. We are giving money, and the project should be specific. It's not about supporting the overall operation of a company. It's about innovation/transformation. It's not modernization, and it's not the overall activity. It should be one very specific project. The main component of the project should be digital, and the application or the project can be focused on one specific company, but it can also be a collaborative project. And actually, we really welcome collaborative projects. We think that collaborative project or collaborative effort is part of the stimulation component. And it was very interesting to see how things have evolved from round 1 until last round, round 3. And we saw more and more collaborative projects. Among the large projects selected last time, I think it was 30...
half of it was.
Yeah, more than 30 projects. Half of it were collaborative projects. Collaboration can be collaboration between different publishers in the same market. Can be a collaboration with academics, with a new startup. It can be a collaboration across Europe. And we saw a lot of collaborative efforts that are really interesting. So we really, really welcome a collaborative project. After 3 rounds, we've decided to make slight changes. Actually, one big change to the call for project. And round 4 would be slightly different, with for the first time a specific theme, a specific topic, a call on monetization. Why we've decided to do that? We've learned a lot with 3 rounds. we wanted to be as broad and open as possible, and we decided to stay very broad and very open in terms of eligibility. And still, everyone can apply. But we decided also to hear from the industry. And we had a lot of conversation with the news industry, the news ecosystem. And of course, the big challenge the industry is facing today is monetization. How to build more sustainable models, how to try to find new recipes. We know how difficult it is, and of course, there is no silver bullet. But innovation and monetization can also work together. So we've decided to put a focus in this round on projects that have a very clear monetization component. When we are saying that, we want to stay very open-minded. Any kind of topic can be eligible, any kind of idea can be absolutely great, but it has to go with a monetization component. And we have to be clear, prototypes stays as it is, no monetization requirement for prototype, but for both medium and large track. I will define right after what is medium and large, but you need to have a monetization component. So let's see the 3 tracks. First one, prototype. Maximum duration of a prototype, 12 months, 9 months would be even better. What is a prototype? Early stage ideas with assumptions that has to be tested. Everyone can apply. We fund 100% of the project up to 50K. It has nothing to do with monetization. It can have something to do with monetization, but it's not mandatory, right?
Yeah.
And
we have to try to make it even more clear in the application form that what Ludo just said, that the assumption to be tested is somehow at its core. I mean, you have to define an assumption you want to test. I think that's very important. If you look at the application form and the changes of the application form from last round, the prototype application form has changed there very directly. So again, if you apply, think about the assumption you want to test before you're applying to prototype track.
So then we have the medium and large projects. Main difference, the amount of funding requested. Medium project is up to 300K funding requested. And we finance up to 70% of the overall cost. So basically, a medium project is almost 450K. Overall cost, we fund up to 300K. That's a medium project. And large project is up to 1 million euro funding. For both medium and large, we ask for a mandatory monetization plan. So what do we mean when we say monetization? Again, it's very broad, but what we want is you to demonstrate that this project can, may, might bring additional value to your operations. Provide clear indicators where you explain the potential of this project in terms of value creation, added value. It's up to you the kind of indicators you want to send. That's your decision, but help us to understand the opportunities that goes with this project in terms of creation of additional value for your activity. So main criteria would be still impact on news. Explain why does it have an impact, why it's inspiring, how it's opening new ideas, and explain also, number 2, why it's innovative. And innovation, it's hard to define. So it depends of your starting point, it depends of your media landscape. Explain why this project, this specific project is innovative. Explain how you are using technology, but sometimes innovation doesn't go with technology, but can still be innovative. So explain that. Third point is important, the feasibility. How do you mitigate the risk? How you make sure you can afford your part of the funding? And I would say here the key word is consistency. Be consistent. you need to be consistent between the amount of funding requested, the size of the company, the perimeter of the project. We don't finance the overall operation of a company. We finance specific projects, we co-finance specific projects. So be consistent. And last but not least, for medium and large, we'll look at the monetization plan. So provide clear indicators. Don't hesitate to send additional informations, mock-ups, be user-focused, explain the product, explain what will be exactly the project. Christian?
Yeah, and put yourself into the shoes of an external or an internal assessor. They probably don't know you, they don't know your company. If it's bigger, we probably know it, but try to write a story about, make us excited about your project and try us to want to know more. And I think if you take this into account and make sure that the budget also reflects the story, I think you're on a good way.
So how is it going to work now? So basically we have two bodies. One is the project team and the other one is the council. The council is overseeing all DNI Fund operations. The project team is reviewing all applications. So when you submit your application and know the application window is open, you go online on DNI Fund section of DNI website, you submit your application, it's English only, we'll receive the application, we'll review it. And at least 2 people will review your application. It's all about diversity and having different perspectives. One will be internal from Google, and one will be external innovation expert that will have a look. At least all applications are reviewed by at least 2 persons. Yeah. Most of the time it's 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Then
last time it was like 3.
Yeah, in reality it can be or 6.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but make sure that each time at least 2-3 people are reviewing the application, always one internal, one external. Then we are making a first shortlist for prototype, medium, and large. Based on this first shortlist, we reach out to some applicants and we decide to have interactions, interviews. We ask for additional information. We go really in depth. After this stage, we make the selection for prototype and medium, and our team is making the selection. Then we make another shortlist, we produce recommendation, and we bring the large application to the European Council. Same, the European Council is a mix of people from Google and external people from the industry. We have a representative from many kinds of companies. Some are digital expert, innovation expert, academic background, traditional press background. The chairman, João Palmeiro, is Portuguese. We have people from France, from UK, from Spain. And they vote for large projects, so they are responsible of the final selection of the large project, and they oversee the whole operation of DNI Innovation Fund. So this is how it works. And the external assessors, this time you will have 3 new persons in the team. Danielle, she was actually already external assessor for previous round, and Yusa Adams from UK and Sebastian Bayer from Germany are now joining the team. And they are really expert in monetization, in paywall, and they know that very well. So it will be interesting to have this diversity of view again.
Looking forward.
Looking forward. So now a couple of tips, and then I will give the floor to both Sarah and Christian to answer your questions. Take this seriously. Read the terms and conditions. Read carefully on the website the frequently asked questions. Most of the people that are not meeting the criteria is just because they didn't spend time enough on the website to look at the rules and criteria. So spend time on it. Have in mind that pure content creation is not available for funding. We are not financing just reporting, for instance. The project, medium and large, shouldn't last for more than 2 years, and prototypes is 1 year maximum. Training and education projects are not eligible. we still really welcome collaborative projects. Think about the monetization component and how you go in depth with your explanation of the creation of additional value with your project. Think about the impact on the European news ecosystem. And if you have questions, reach out, dnifund@google.com. I want to thank you very much because we have almost 200 people connected, maybe more now because this number was given to me already 5 minutes ago. So, huge audience, thank you very much for being here. And we had many questions. We've selected the one that really reflects the overall question you were having, and we'll try through the question we've picked up to answer many of your concerns, but of course don't hesitate to reach out after if you have additional questions.
Exactly. So let's start with the questions. As Ludo just said, we were very positively surprised of the massive amount of questions which you handed in. In the beginning we thought about doing it as a live session, but the questions we had already were quite extensive. I think at the end we had like 89 questions handed in. We have picked out, I think, the top 12.
Yeah, and these are kind of commonly asked,
exactly.
if you like. They were a theme amongst them, weren't they?
Yeah, maybe if we have some time left, we might go into other questions as well, but let's see. Yeah, maybe, do you want to start?
No.
Okay, I start. So you can see the question, obviously, the monetization plan. That's a very good question, and it's a question we often get. I mean, first of all, it's very important, and you can see this also in the application form. You shouldn't hand over to us business-sensitive information. We make this also very clear in the terms and conditions. But by monetization plan, we mean somehow anything which covers, first of all, the feasibility aspect and the sustainability aspect, so that we do understand why the core component of the application is monetization, and how you are going to cover this with this idea. You can obviously hand in somehow business plan, again, make sure no sensitive information. We also make this very clear in the application form at the end. You can hand in via the DNI Fund address after the application any additional information. If your project has this has a fit to the criteria of monetization, you're probably good advice to hand in anything afterwards to us, but within the application window, which proves that you have a clear monetization plan. Anything to add?
I'll see what the next one is.
Gabriel.
Okay, are content projects like vlogs eligible? We kind of get asked this quite a lot, not necessarily on vlogs obviously, but people who want to produce perhaps some niche content of some sort, perhaps video, or it could even be just a niche interest text or pictures or whatever. As we've said already, we don't actually fund pure content projects. However, nearly all projects are going to have some element of content within them. It's just not going to be the priority thing for us as to the funding aspect of it. So any project that comes forward in a news context is obviously going to have content, but what we're looking to do is look to fund the innovation, the thing that's going to stimulate the industry rather than the content itself. So although we wouldn't fund the production of a vlog, if the overall application included vlogs within it, that wouldn't rule it out. So there's an area there that's a little bit of a grey area, we sometimes say, but pure content production is not something that we fund in the DNI.
If your vlog already exists and you want to finance video for it, we cannot finance just this content. But if you want to create a platform where you can generate some vlog, there is a monetization component in there, and part of it is content production. That can be part of the overall cost, but it should be a project with, I would say, both the content, the package, and also the promotion of it. How do you make it work? How do you create a base of users and so on?
So what is innovative about the idea is where we're trying to find.
And always keep the slogan in mind, empower journalism through technology. So the tech part has to be at its core. Also look at the presented criteria. And I would clearly give an answer to a content project, probably not. It's not clearly, but an answer. Okay, would media and exile? Oh, yeah, that's a question we also get quite often, especially as we have this focus on the European Union and EFTA.
We could probably put within this question as well, one we also get asked quite a lot, is people that are outside of the EU, i.e. their headquarters are in America, you know, can they apply? So it's a sort of location-based question, if you like. Where is the headquarters?
Exactly, and that's also always a tough one. I mean, we got a lot of very interesting projects which are outside the European Union or EFTA with its core focus, let's say. So, and that's also always very critical for us. But in general, I would say it's very hard for us to fund projects which have a focus outside the European Union and the EFTA.
So applicants should be absolutely incorporated, registered in European Union or EFTA. And the focus and also all the operations and the engineering stuff should be done in Europe. The impact on the European news ecosystem is critical.
Yeah, so I would give also an advice to this question and say, if something you're building, like a technology which is maybe used in the Middle East as well, is also been used in the European market, I would definitely focus on the European market and not on the Middle East. Oh, is there any specific monetization document we shall fulfill for the application? To be honest, it's a bit combined with the question before with the monetization plan. It would be good to have a breakdown of the costs. In the application form, we ask for a budget, but that's like just based on numbers. If you're anyhow able to hand in more information, any additional information to even write the story better about your budget, it's totally fine to hand in whatever format you have. I mean, I think we are at least able to open every document if there's not a virus in there. So I think in general, we ask you to hand in additional information which helps us to understand the monetization component.
It's really up to you to decide what you are sending to the fund team. Very important, always useful to remind you that the fund is not about Google product, and that we keep only within the fund team the information that are sent through the application process. That said, it's your decision what kind of information you are sending. But have in mind that in order to assess, we need indicators and clear explanation. Put the indicators in the way we want, but you have assumptions, we need to be able to confirm those assumptions. We always appreciate to receive a mock-up of the project. Don't hesitate to send additional information with a presentation deck, like 10 slides, very high level, focus on what will be the product, what is the market, why it's innovative, what will be the business plan. And then don't hesitate to provide KPIs in the way you want, but that's your decision, but indicators always help.
And never ever send us an email with additional information without your application ID, okay? So make sure you don't send it up front, hand in the application first, you will receive the application ID at the end, and send to us the additional information including the application ID, because the reason is pretty clear.
Application ID is application number,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So for this round, it will start R4, for instance. But I think that question perhaps also is asking us whether there's a sort of thing to fill in that's formatted, and there isn't. No. You choose what you want to send as a monetization plan. We haven't got any sort of template or anything for you. Okay.
But just one thing, please go on the website, and even if it's pretty old school, take the time to look at the PDF of the application form. You will find it in the FAQ, and print it. And you will see it's a very template-based application. So already the kind of questions we're asking give you an idea of what is expected. Then you can work with the team, go in depth, and fill the form, submit your application. So use those documents.
Okay, is there a specific focus for projects this round, specifically prototype projects? Any area you'd like to receive applications?
All areas.
Yes, well,
Prototypes are completely open to ideas. There's no monetization issue. There can be, but there's no requirement for it. And therefore, ideas that are assumptions that need testing. And that's what we're looking for, something that may not have been tested very much before. We want something new. It shouldn't be launched yet. It should be early stage, and it's got something to prove. And that's what we're looking for. There's no genre or type that we're looking for, just really wide ideas into that prototype area.
And have a look at the DNI Innovation Fund project page, where you can see all the projects which we have funded so far. I always have the feeling, okay, I've been involved, so I'm biased, but that you get a clear understanding, let's say, of the overall theme, what we are looking for. And we have a lot of prototype projects in there, so have a look at the projects page and see what we have funded so far, and I think you will have a very good feeling which area we would like to receive applications in.
But let's also be honest, we cannot really have expectation, because the truth is that you are ahead of us.
Yeah.
We sometimes expect on trends, and we are always surprised to see other things emerging. Let me take an example. Round one, I didn't expect to have that many projects about fake news, because no one was talking about fake news. People were speaking a bit about fact-checking.
We get
16, 18 applications, round one about fake news, fact-checking, verification. I didn't expect round one to have that many audio projects. And it was interesting to see how it has evolved, because round one was audio, round two was podcast, and was really the early stage of podcast. So we saw something there. And round three, before having assistance and this kind of, was all from audio to voice. So was still audio, but was about having interaction and figuring out other way to spread the news. So the truth continue to surprise us with unexpected topics, but this time it should go with monetization.
Surprise us. If the project is publicly launched during the funding time,
I think this is around. I think this is around start dates, isn't it? I think. So for the prototypes, as we said, it should be very early stage. Whatever is being entered to us shouldn't be already publicly available widely everywhere. It should be early stage. That's for the prototypes. For the other projects,
it shouldn't be up and running.
Yeah.
No,
everything should be early stage.
Very early stage.
But you find also, look into the terms and conditions, we very clearly state this there. So please, again, the advice, look into the TNCs. The project should not be launched.
I wonder whether this question's also going to our processes and how we contract people, and whether people can launch during our contracting process. And just a little note on timings on that. Obviously, successful applicants to this round will hear in mid-December whether or not they've been successful or not. And we expect to have the first people contracted within about a month. It could be quicker, it could be longer, depending on the applicant, but that's the sort of average time. So obviously they can launch after they've been contracted. So just in case this question's actually sort of referring to our processes, that's the timeline going forward.
And important to have in mind that we reimburse expenditure only after the contract is signed.
From both sides.
So exactly. So so the project could be advanced in terms of prototyping, in terms of mock-ups, design and so on, but shouldn't be up and running. It has to be a project to come.
So the actual record actually is 13 days after the announcement.
Don't hold us to that. Well, we did this a little bit, didn't we?
So you're in the US and you want to partner with a company in Europe. You can. First, let's explain how a collaborative project works. When you apply, you declare if it's a collaborative project or not. If it's a collaborative project, there is still just one lead applicant. The lead applicant should still be established, based, incorporated in EU or IFTA. Then you declare who are the partners, and you can even put a letter that make it official that you have people on board, right? Yeah. And those partners are not contracting with us. They are tied to the lead applicant. And the lead applicant should be in Europe. So if you are a US company, the truth is that you should, I really recommend to have a lead applicant that is Europe-based, but not just that. You should really demonstrate that the project has an impact on the European news ecosystem and that the engineering of the project, the team and so on are Europe-based. If not, I don't think...
yeah, we had the case where we had like the strong feeling that the main task or the main work of this project was not in Europe, and that is not fully eligible for us. Why are funds...
Why are funds in my country, we don't know where that is, but
I know it.
Okay, distributed only to large publishers on medium-large projects? Well, I think we'd possibly think that might be a perception rather than reality, because we actually fund across all tracks in all countries. So they're not just distributed to large publishers, but perhaps that's been a perception somewhere. But obviously that isn't actually the case. Every geographical area is open to every track.
Yeah, we had this question actually twice, so it's a mix-up of two questions actually, but how would you reply to this?
No, we try really to be over-transparent about everything because, again, nothing to do with Google product. And also, we're really seeing that part of the simulation is sharing, and sharing the learnings, sharing what we learn from it, but also offering the opportunity to recipients to share how they are going through a project, what they learn from it, and how this can benefit the news ecosystem. I really recommend you to have a look at our website and to look at the DNI Innovation Fund report. Every year, we've done one, but we're going to do another one next year. We say everything about the fund. And here you can see a couple of examples of project, use cases, learnings, but also all the numbers. All companies that received funding are listed. All the topics are listed.
And
you can see that this fund, which is a European fund, is all about diversity of applicants, diversity of selected projects, from startup to large players to broadcaster. A lot of, I mean, any kind of company is selected, can apply, but is also selected, and diversity of topic as well. So really have a look at the DNI Fund report, and you will see, I don't know exactly what you mean by large publishers, but you will see that it's all about diversity. We had startups that are even partnering with large publishers on collaborative projects and that get funded for large projects. Then there is something in this question which is saying medium and large track, a lot of large publishers. That is true. And I think this is something that goes with the consistency that is required. And this fund is not about seeding the overall operation of a company or supporting all the operation of a company. It's about supporting a project. So it's true that when a new startup is coming with 2 persons on board and just one journalist is asking for 700K, let's take an example, they are more than in a gray zone because it's not consistent, and it means that they are 100% Google fund dependent. We don't want that. We want people to take risks, we want to give space to that, but we don't want to be the main source of funding.
Yeah, and I mean, if your turnover is lower than the funding, then you have to make very clear in the application why you still think that this is feasible and doable as well. And again, as Ludo said, it's a gray zone, and we always have long discussions actually in the team about those kinds of applications. But try to be as open as possible and tackle the issues you can see in your application. So again, if you are a small startup and ask for a lot of money, then you should tackle and try to convince us why you are still the right to do this project.
And, and maybe try to set up a collaboration with other large players.
By the way, for medium and large, individuals can't apply, so that's probably also one of the bigger.
Yeah, this picks up on that really. We're a small startup consisting only of 2 people. We want to apply for prototype projects. So this is the situation a lot of prototype projects are in. Most or all of our spending will be for the personnel. That again is a very common scenario and completely eligible into the fund. Is it better to submit the project as an organisation or as an individual? Well, that's a difficult one to answer in a way, in that it could go either way.
Honestly, if it's a startup with a legal entity, my advice would be more, and the legal entity is already set up, you should apply with your legal entity and not as an individual, because it's not an individual project anymore. If you want to set up a startup in the future, but before that you want to test something and prototype an idea, you can be an individual working on an idea and set up. That would be my advice. Let's be honest, we're going to focus more on, it's a prototype, so we're going to focus more on the idea itself, try to kind of draw our attention. That's the more important.
And also, to be honest, look at the application form very carefully, because we have the section in the budget which is also about engineering, and if one of those 2 people is an engineer and spending the most on his time on engineering, this is engineering cost and not classical personnel cost.
Yeah, it's probably also worth just mentioning as well that if you are in the situation where, you know, you're 2 friends and you're going to set up a company together, it depends on the country you're in, how long that process takes, and it might be worth researching that before you set about that, and doing it as, you know, a friend for a friend rather than a company, if that's going to take a very long time.
Well, media agency, can we submit 2 proposals?
So there's a general rule. So normally one applicant and one entity should focus on on one application. However, if this entity is within a bigger group, it's totally fine to hand in up to 3 applications.
So 3 applications by group?
By group.
1 per brand?
Per entity.
Okay. Legal entity, which is most of the time a brand, right? And you can reapply for each one.
Yeah. But I mean, think about, I mean, if you're a group and you know about like the other entities applying all to the same track, ask yourself if this is useful going. I mean, we had cases where this worked, but there has been also other cases where it didn't work.
If we can give a tip, let's give a tip. I don't think it's about putting coins in the machine and see if it's going to work or not.
You're sort of competing against yourself, aren't you?
To maximize the chance, be super focused, work in depth on one, rather than trying to throw many ideas that are not in depth.
But we have the second part. We aim to submit the first one as a single team prototype and the second one on a consortium with the publisher.
That makes sense.
Exactly. That's the opposite side. That makes sense. I mean, because if you go for a consortium and a collaboration, obviously, it's a total different game. And if other players are involved, it's fine. What is also fine, and we get the question quite often, if someone applied with its entity once and is a collaborative partner in another project, that is in general also fine. But also always keep in mind, it is also about feasibility. I mean, you have to convince us or the assessment team, to convince the assessment team that you can do that. And if you come with like 2 large projects and you're a very small company, critical.
I think it's probably worth just mentioning again that there is a hard rule around this as well, as to you can only be the lead applicant on one application.
Exactly.
So that is there in the T's and C's that we're referring to.
But exactly, also, I mean, you will get bored by that, but read the T and C's, because all those kind of topics are covered in the T and C's.
T's and C's, terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions. Oh yeah, very good. Terms and conditions. You can download them, I think, nearly everywhere on our website, but especially in the FAQ. So if you read the FAQ and download the terms and conditions there, you have read the FAQ and the terms and conditions, and you will be way better off.
Next question.
Do you have to have a journalist on the team? Is the shorthand version of this? But,
Let's start with the shorthand version.
Yeah. Do you have to have a journalist on the team? For medium and large,
it is very much preferable to have at least one journalist in
Medium
your
and
team.
large, you need to have at least one journalist on board.
Yeah.
And preferable to have more because, again, it's about consistency, right?
And about journalism as well.
And about journalism. But medium and large, at least one journalist. Medium and large, open only to companies with at least one journalist on board. Prototype can be almost anyone.
Yeah, and the second part, we do have people who have work experience in journalism but cannot provide a track record at our own project right now. I mean, if they are considered as journalists and you apply with them as journalists, and we
don't attempt to define what a journalist is because nobody has been able to define
on purpose. And I think if they apply and they are journalists, it's totally fine, even if they don't have a track record in your company. I mean, it would be very mean to not accept this.
What is the minimum or maximum
timings.
project duration?
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. So,
in the terms and conditions?
again, but let's answer the question.
Sure.
So, prototype, maximum 1 year, preferably 9 months. I mean, a prototype should stay a prototype. If more than 1 year, it's not really a prototype. Medium and large, maximum 2 years duration. Then we see how it goes, but the timeline should be for 2 years maximum. When we say that, it doesn't mean that you stop your project after 2 years, but we are funding for 2 years, and at least after 2 years the project should be up and running, which doesn't mean it should be sustainable at this time. You can have a business plan that is based and built on a different timeline, but the project should be up and running after 2 years.
That's smart. People started to ask 2 questions in one, because I mean, is the goal market entry or post-launch scaling and adoption? As we said earlier, and as stated in the terms and conditions, very important that the project is not publicly launched so far. You can start to work on the project as soon as we both have signed the agreement. So I would pretty easy answer, there is no clear answer. Is the goal market entry?
It could be for
it
prototype.
could be, exactly, it could be. But it's definitely not publicly launched. No? I mean, it can be launched probably internally, but and it's definitely not classical scaling and adoption. Coming back to what Ludo said earlier, you have to explain to us why this is innovative, okay? So why this hasn't been done so far in the manner you're going to do so. And this should be like the core of your thinking when you write the application and when we try to answer those questions.
And I'm going to mitigate that a little bit or balance that.
Yeah.
This can have been done before,
yeah.
but
True.
Why you are doing it in a different way? Why you are trying
True.
to take new paths? Why you think you have another way to execute stuff to make it a success? So be inspired by others, that's fine. Provide a benchmark, explain exactly what you are doing. And also, we are not funding pure scale or expansion. If you are doing something in one country and you say, okay, I want money to grow,
yeah.
that's great, but I'm not sure we are here for that because it's expansion, it's modernization. It's not about the broad digital agenda of a company. It's about one specific project.
And I think that's very important. Make sure, and before you hand in the application, that you ask yourself, is it your broad digital agenda to do that? Or is it modernization? Because we quite often get applications and we have to turn them down about things which are classical modernization or expansion. And also, just to second what we said earlier, we are not venture capitalists, so we don't give seed money for projects. It's about innovation, and it's about stimulation of innovation, and it's about empowering journalism through technology. And I think that's very important.
And this is your project.
Yeah, yeah. Just to be, I mean, I don't think we have time for further questions, but I think it's very, very important, even as we don't have the time, we would need probably 5 hours to answer all the 102 questions which we have already now. But we are we try to be as responsive as possible. The last number I saw, we are able to answer within 23 hours. That was the last calculation I made last week. Sometimes it might take longer, 48 hours or over the weekend. But if your question has not been answered, please send us an email to dnifund@google.com. I think so far we have been able to answer all the questions, to be very clear. But before you do so, again, check carefully the terms and conditions and the FAQ on our website. And also very good advice to download our Digital News Innovation Fund annual report, because in the report we do not just explain the selection criteria even more, we also explain how we work, how projects work, and you get a good overview about what we mean by impact of news ecosystem, feasibility, and online and digital news. Just, I have one last advice. Should I tell it?
Go for it.
Okay, one thing I'm always telling applicants who reach out to us and have questions is, before you hand in the application, take the application, print it out, as Ludo said, take clause number 4 on the terms and conditions, where we explain the selection criteria very carefully. Give this application to someone you trust, but who has not been involved into the project, and ask him somehow line by line if he thinks it's totally understandable. It's understandable that those selection criteria are matched. It's understandable that this round, if it's a medium and large project, there's a clear monetization component in the project. And also ask him if he or she, from her external perspective, does understand this idea very clearly, and if he thinks this is an innovation which is good to help to empower journalism.
And to be super clear, give that to someone else in your company, but not to us.
No, don't do that. Don't do that, no.
Okay, so you were more than 220 people to attend this online session.
It's recorded.
That's really impressive.
It will be available online later on our website as well, if you want to share it or give it to someone else. And what else? Is there something missing?
Thank you very much. We
Thank
can
you.
wait to read your applications. Again, if you have questions, dnifund@google.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well done.